Yes, good morning, good afternoon, or even good evening to you, whatever the time of the day is, wherever you are in the world. Greetings and salutations to you. My name is Marcus Burke, and thank you so much for accepting my application for your show and reviewing this video as to why I know and believe that I would be a brilliant and valuable candidate for your show that's upcoming. When I was approached by Ellie on TikTok and she presented this project to me, and I had reviewed it on Instagram, and I instantly knew that this is something for me, because I am an angry person. I'm a person fueled with passion and things that have to be said, that want to be said, and I will say it because I'm that character. I have a TikTok in which I do that all the time, in which I talk about issues and I explore different things. But the one thing that's missing with TikTok is the interaction. Yes, you have the comments, yes, you have people that are able to say a few lines and interact with you, but fundamentally that passion and that anger and the problems that I have and I feel within the soul of who I am is only then presented at one side in a few comments, and we're not able to ever find middle ground. And oftentimes you find that with TikTok, or that kind of debate is it can be quite stunted, because I say what I have to say. There's no real pushback, and the pushback is so limited that it's almost like, well, there's not enough nuance there to really get into what we're talking about. These are complex issues, so they can't be dealt with simplistically, right? And with all of the passion and the anger that I feel inside of me, that's shared with so much people at this time that we live in, right? Some people are angry, they're so invested in their echo chambers that they're in. What they say, everybody else says it around them, and they never meet anybody that says anything different, and everybody else is so stupid and so crazy and so dumb that how could you possibly think that? And we never meet in the middle ground. And then I wonder to myself, how can we as people exist together in this mishmash society that we are in, and be so angry all the time, and expect that as a human species, or just as a society, that we're going to cooperate in a way that means that we are successful in all that we do? I think that's almost impossible. So we have to find middle ground. There has to be a way in which we can come together and talk and say, okay, I think this, I think this, I think this makes me feel this, I believe this. How about you? And we've got to hear, we've got to listen, we've got to exchange. And although I'm angry and although I'm frustrated, I also have an awareness of why people get to the place that they're in. So here I am as a gay man, as a black man that is British, living in the United Kingdom. I am pissed off by the way that the trans argument, or the idea that trans people's existence is somehow infiltrating the dominant culture and heterosexual normative behavior to the point that is detrimental to the progress of society. And I actually believe that is being used as a way to really come down on the LGBT community as a whole. So I'm a gay man and I'm not actually transgender, and I might also have agreement in some places when it might come to athletics or the role of trans people in athletics and other things, but that also doesn't mean that I want to see the death of an existence of a people at the expense of you wanting to express an idea that really doesn't make much sense. And you're incredibly angry about something that we're talking about less than 1% of the population. So what are you really angry about? You're angry about children. You say that the children are hurt. You say that the children are going to be infected almost by the trans people that's walking around. But you don't seem to share that same passion with actual statistical things that are affecting children. You don't seem to be involved in schools. You don't seem to be involved in a local community, in a local group in which they're doing reading or literacy with the local youth of the community, but you're very invested in a group of trans. And really and truly, where that's come from is not the people that walk around. It comes from this social media bubble of individuals like your Piers Morgans of the world that latch on to really obscure stories of a random school in some community that nobody's ever heard of, a population of 1,000, where some teacher said something that agreeably was quite bonkers, and suddenly that becomes the face of education and the face of schools and what the trans lobby are doing to these people, etc. It's insane. And it's that insanity that is filtered through those people, where they exaggerate these ideas that is totally blown out of proportion, and then you have this blowback in such a way where it's like, we need to get rid of this, we need to get rid of that, we need to do this. So you just look at the Donald Trump campaign, where you have individuals cheering and shouting and in so much visceral joy that Donald Trump decided to sign something that said that trans women could no longer perform or no longer participate in women-only sports. Okay, fine, but it's incredible that you're somebody that has deep economic issues. But I don't believe that the seven trans athletes that were performing in schools in the United States of America are affecting your price of eggs. I don't believe that they're affecting your economic status. I don't believe it's affecting your role within society at all, because it couldn't mathematically. But you're impassioned by that. Why? What has made you believe that that is the problem as opposed to your actual day-to-day life? I sit on the table of my house with my family and I hear family members talk about, oh, you know, I can't believe that they have this, I can't believe that they have that. And then I ask the question, oh, when was the last time you ran into somebody that attacked you in the ladies' room? When has that actually happened? Or are you talking about something obscure story that you saw online that happened to somebody else? Or did you hear somebody talk about something that would be considered radical by most people? I don't know. That's my problem. That is being filtered through in so many arenas of our lives. You have the trans debate, which what is really happening with that is that you're getting this over reaction to something that isn't really even there, to things that, yes, we can have a debate and a conversation about perhaps the role of trans people within women only spaces or trans men in male only spaces or whatever it might be. Those can be legitimate conversations and debates that we can have. But when we start to pretend as if that's affecting our economics and that's affecting our pockets, or that's affecting the way in which that our role and our status in society, it isn't true and it is a lie. And then you have to ask yourself the question, why are they lying to you in a way to make you believe that the number one problem in your life is trans people and their ability to perhaps maybe be in a restroom, or perhaps that there might be an individual that might be on a team in a school, that is so impactful that it's impacting your daily life, that is impacting your economics, that is impacting the way in which you interact with family, that you interact with friends. I don't think so. It is not doing that, and it can't be doing that because it's not a reflection of your actual day-to-day life. If I am a gay person that is a part of that wider community, which is called the LGBTQ plus community, then surely you would assume that even being within that insular community that I would know tons of trans people, but I do not. So that is a demonstration of the fact that I live in a world where the majority of the people disproportionately are actually heterosexual individuals that are cisgendered. So I don't understand why you seem to have created a world for yourself where that is the reality, but it is not. So I think that is really, when you unpack that with people and you say, actually, just think about your daily life. Today you went to town. Did you see what happened when you went to town? When you went there, in your life, if you've ever been a victim of crime, who has actually been the perpetrator of that crime? Has it been a trans person? In your life, when your child went to school and they had a problem, was it a trans person or was it another kid bullying them because of some other nefarious reason? I don't know. Ask yourself those questions, reflect on that. And then when you reflect, then you go, oh, what there's these opinion hosts on social media that have huge followings, what they're saying, is it true or is it not true? When you have individuals like Andrew Tate that's jumping around at the Paris Olympics talking about how, oh, they're doing they're defecating the image of the Last Supper with Jesus Christ and all of these things, but you go, no, but that's not what it was though. But that's not what was going on, and you're just perpetuating a lie and everyone's jumping up in an excitement. But then you go, it's interesting that you're so engrossed in this, but are you even somebody that cares about the Last Supper painting that was painted by an individual, a man, centuries or after Jesus Christ anyway was even with us on the planet Earth? I just don't know. And these are that's the crux of my problem. You see, I've spoken for now for 8 minutes, and really what I wanted to do in this was to really get round to the fact that my key is or my desire is to be able to get people to acknowledge these things. And within that as well, for me to acknowledge that there are legitimate, or okay, if that's a feeling that you have and that's shared amongst people, then there may be some legitimacy in some fears that perhaps I'm not aware of, that perhaps can be introduced to me, can be explored within me, to allow me to also elevate my level of debate, my level of discourse when talking about such issues. And I'm focused primarily on trans, but actually this elevates amongst many things, right? When you think about just the way in which just the way in which the framework of immigration in the UK has been framed by the Reform Party, by Nigel Farage, by this idea once again that you've got this enemy figure that's come to take over and do something to your life, that's going to do something quite detrimental, but not even considering that these same individuals are not preparing or not putting out any policies that's going to fill the gaps of these what immigrants do in this country. When you think about how immigrants are scapegoated constantly, how immigrants are being used as a fuel and as a tool to be able to justify all of the problems and the ills of this country, and not acknowledging that these ills have existed for a very long time. When Margaret Thatcher signed those bills in the 1980s, and that was the root of where we see the problem of housing in the UK today. So when we talk about housing and they talk about overcrowding, and we want to just talk about the small percentile of migrants that have come across the seas, but we don't want to acknowledge the fact that in Europe, comparatively, we haven't built as many houses comparatively within the G7. So there's a problem there. There's a governmental problem. There's a problem with development. Why is it that a lot of our social housing has been privatized in a way that a lot of people love and has benefited a lot of people, but those same people of the 1980s and the 1990s that bought these council places and are now renting them out for crazy amounts of money, and then there is a housing shortage, there is a problem there. So that problem is not rooted in immigration, although it might contribute to issues in very micro situations. Generally speaking, we are looking at a country that hasn't grown. It hasn't done what it's supposed to do. So we have a housing shortage. And here I am, which has brought me on to my next point of why I'm so annoyed that I exist in what I consider the sandwich generation, a generation beyond the underneath the baby boomers and then above the genes. I'm a millennial. And as a millennial, I have been screwed over economically with many of these things. And then as a gay man, finally being able to swim through all of the economic disastrous things that we've had to exist through for the past how many years. And then here comes the doubling down of Brexit. That Brexit was a disastrous idea, a disastrous choice. It made no sense. It was almost borderline, I want to say anti-democratic, but I'm not even going to get into that. It was awful in the way it was, in what happened and how it took place. And then we're seeing the effects of that to today. And then you can have an individual that pushed that through, such as Nigel Farage, but people could believe that despite the fact that it was so disastrous to our nation, despite the fact that the pound trade, all of these things has reduced. The Bank of England reduced a report quite recently to demonstrate the negative impacts of these things. But irrespective of that, we still are going to vote in an individual and have popularity within the Reform Party, despite the fact that they have no policies, despite the fact that they have no solutions, and despite the fact that they brought us to a place where the country is demonstrably in an economically weaker place than it once was. And you have that individual that can be leading and have a place in the Parliament, and that same individual be a member of Parliament for Clacton, but be in the United States of America, hitch up behind Donald Trump and Musk, in a time when I would suggest that if you are maintaining any sense of pro-Britishness inside of you, when you have an individual saying things like JD Vance and Donald Trump and the things that they're doing to Europe, you need to know what place and what side you're on. And it makes me wonder, what side are you on? Because you are a part of the establishment, you're a part of all of these things, and it makes me wonder. So this group, that I go back to the point that I made at the beginning, this group that exists in this bubble that control different media spaces, and now the social media opinion spaces, the brospheres, the of the world, the brospheres. I just made that word up. I thought that was quite good. The Tates of the world, etc. All of these individuals, their dominant ideas, and how that's perpetrated everywhere, and how they have managed to push such a level of distrust in the media, to the point where it doesn't matter if the media say this is what's happened. So for example, I might say it's sunny out because the sun's out, but you would watch that and say, oh, it's the media, it probably was raining. No, it actually was. I'm actually saying that level of distrust has become so dangerous that opinion hosts can root themselves in lies but be believed, because the media is not to be believed because you said so. Incredibly dangerous. And when you have a society where democracy depends on a fully functioning media apparatus, where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? So here we are. As you know, I'm incredibly, even as I'm speaking now, I've just got a lot of ideas streaming through my mind. But fundamentally, I want to be on the show because I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of viewpoints, I have a lot of opinions. I'm a person that is mindful of other people's ideas, and I have a desire for knowledge, and I have a desire to learn. So I spend a lot of time watching things like GB News and Fox News. I consider myself a center. I'm quite centered when it comes to my politics, and I probably lean a little bit to the left, but I do consider myself a little bit of a small c conservative as well. I do believe in traditional ideas. I do believe in small government in certain places and deregulation in certain places or whatever. So I'm not just a swoop brush through, in one way. I understand nuance, I understand the grey in between, and for that reason, that's why I love debate and I love discourse and I like speaking to people. But I also believe that we live in a world and we live in a society, and your beliefs and my beliefs have to come to a place where they can be married, because so we can coexist in this society, and then therefore things can develop and grow. We don't have to agree whether or not I think that closet looks good, or that shoes look good, or those slippers look good, but we need to have a fundamental agreement on fundamental values. And if you disagree with fundamental values, as we might be seeing right now in the public domain in America and over here with huge polarized politics at the moment, that means that it can suffer on the development of our nations in which we live in. And I exist here, I exist in the United Kingdom, I am a British born individual, and I want to see my life and my children's lives elevated. So your opinions and your viewpoints and what you do with your vote matters to me and my life. So therefore it is important and almost imperative and vital that I find that married point, that we can come together and have that conversation, and I believe that your show can do that. Therefore I would like to be on your show, so please consider me. If you like reggae music, there is a song called Glen Washington called Please Consider Me. So please listen to that song, Please Consider Me, and then let's take it from there. Thank you.